All right, the big question of the day, what is the MLS playoff picture? The regular season decision day went down on Saturday, and the playoff picture is clear, and the start of it all, the play-in games, start already on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Montreal and Atlanta on
Playoffs.
Tuesday,
Are
Vancouver
those
and Portland on
playoffs?
Wednesday. Play-in
Playoffs?
game.
Playoffs?
Junior varsity playoffs.
Playoffs? All right, I'm sorry. I'm going to just do that a couple more times. All right, we got the bracket. Let's take a look at the bracket for the MLS Cup playoffs now that we know every team that's involved. There you go. Down at the bottom, that's what you're talking about, the wild card. They're called wild cards. I thought they were called play-ins. I guess they're called wild cards. We need to be sure about this terminology. Major League Soccer, soccer.com. Let's make this happen. Let's make sure we know what the
All right.
terminology
So
is.
before we dig into this, is this another new format? Because there's always the tricky scheduling for MLS playoffs because there's international windows, there's a few different moving parts. So is this a new bracket this year?
No. What do you mean? No. It's the same as last year. What are you talking about, Robert?
So last year was the first year of this setup because I remember they do the first round and then there'd be an international break and it would all get kind of lost in the mix.
Well, we do have a November international break, so that will interrupt some things. We will not have just consistent play all the way through to MLS Cup final. So there's going to be a interruption. We don't have this. This is just the bracket. We don't have the schedule. We can look at the schedule, but remember that. And this is the second year. We know that there's a wild card game, one game at the home of the higher seed. In this case, Vancouver will host. Well, actually, that's not true. We know that Vancouver has motocross, supercross happening at BC Place. I nearly misspoke. I forgot my crazy MLS story of the week. So Vancouver will not host that game. The Timbers will host that game in Portland, even though they finished behind Vancouver in the standings. The winner of that will go on to face LAFC, who, of course, is the top seed in the Western Conference. In the East, Montreal hosting Atlanta United. That team, whoever wins that game midweek, will go and play the best of three against Inter Miami. And that's what you have to remember. All those other matchups, those are best of three matchups. So we've got Inter Miami will play 3 games against the winner of Montreal Atlanta. Orlando and Charlotte will play 3 games, et cetera, et cetera. And again, the higher seed gets the benefit of hosting 2 of those games. Right, Robert?
Yeah. Okay. I'm rolling with you.
You're 100% on board. You understand completely what the
with
MLS Cup playoff bracket looks like and why it looks like that?
Oh, totally.
All right.
It's the king of caveats here. MLS. That's my new nickname. The king of caveats. Motocross will switch up our bracket arrangement. That's for sure.
If you were going to fill out your bracket, if you're going to treat this like the NCAA tournament, and MLS has done this in the past, like they got a bracket challenge. If you want to do that, you're going to have to consider that, no, Vancouver will not be hosting that game. It will be at Providence Park. Do you give Portland the edge at home? I think I would. I think I would give Portland the edge at home. And then we get into, okay, what does it look like in those best of 3 series? And how do you think those will play out? Because, again, you would give the higher seed the advantage. I think that's, we talked about this. With the Apple TV deal that MLS signed, they wanted more inventory. They wanted more games to sell to Apple, hence the expansion of the playoffs to the best of 3 format. And at the same time, you hope from a competitive integrity standpoint that that's enough of a reward for the higher seed that it's justified, at least on some level. I think it's weird. I don't like best of 3 in in soccer, Robert. MLS did this way back in the early stages of the league when there were 8 teams. Now there are 29, about to be 30, and we're still doing it, or we brought it back. So without complaining too much about the format, do you see any matchups there that stand out to you from what we've got now for the playoffs?
Ooh, I think in the first round, I can't say that anything is particularly jumping out at me. In my mind, especially in the Eastern Conference, it's all building towards if and when Inter Miami take on the Columbus Crew, because their matchups throughout the regular season and the cup competitions has been a great watch. Yeah. If I'm going to try to find something to dig into here from these first round matchups, it's a little bit of a stretch, but maybe upset alert is more maybe what we'd be looking for. Would a New York City FC beating FC
Possible.
come as
Yeah.
a an upset, maybe?
Yeah, I mean that's a 3 versus 6 there. I could see that happening. Now, the way that this bracket looks, okay, so yeah, the winner of that series will get the winner of Columbus Red Bulls. Now I have Columbus as strong favorites to get past the Red Bulls. So we could have Columbus versus NYCFC. We could also have Columbus versus Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's still a decent team. Let's not count them out. I'm going to have to think about that one in terms of what my pick will be. The other side of that bracket with Orlando, Charlotte, I'm not sure there's a ton to separate those two teams. I think
No.
Orlando should be better, and they're more tested, obviously. But Dean Smith's done a good job in Carolina to get Charlotte into the playoffs. Inter Miami is going to be significant favorites over whoever they face. They'll be favorites against, big favorites against Orlando or Charlotte. Does it all look like a march to a final for Miami? You said Columbus. I mean, if you're going chalk, that's obviously the pick. Does it look like we're going to get one of the? It's going to be a one-off too, so it'll be at Chase Stadium Field building, whatever it's called now, down in Fort Lauderdale, which is an advantage for Inter Miami. On the other side of it, I could actually see Colorado beating LA over 3 games. I can
Ooh,
see
that
it.
might be spicy.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see it. I could see it. I could see Minnesota taking down Real Salt Lake. Like I think there's a real possibility there. The other side, I don't know if I see a ton of upsets. You threw out NYCFC Cincinnati. That's maybe the one. Houston, Seattle. That's like flip a
Toss up.
coin
Yeah.
stuff there. And then LAFC will be a favorite against their wild card opponent. But when they go into that semifinal round in the Western Conference, whether it's Seattle or Houston, yeah, that's going to be tough too. So I think the West, and we knew this. We knew the West was the tougher conference. It looks like it could be a war zone out there. And any of those teams, I could see any of those Western Conference teams in a Western Conference final or perhaps in an MLS Cup final.
Which between the two Los Angeles teams, 1 and 2 in the West,
Yeah.
which team is more likely to get a little bit of egg on their face and get upset? Which one has more vulnerabilities to get beaten by a lower ranked team? Do you think?
Well, I think it's probably the Galaxy. I mean, I like the Galaxy. The Galaxy are good,
Mm-hmm.
but you look at the way it plays out for them because they missed out on the top seed. They get Colorado. That's tough. Colorado's definitely capable of surprising in Los Angeles, and then at altitude, you would have them as somewhat favorites at home in their home leg. I just saying it's a tough one for the Galaxy because they could be up into their RSL Minnesota. Both of those teams are capable of beating the Galaxy in a single game in LA. But I mean, the Galaxy are good. I don't think they've lost this year at home except for the Rose Bowl. So that's worth pointing out. They're really good at home. That's why you want that advantage. I mean, if we got down to a Western Conference final that was the two LA teams and it was at LAFC, you wouldn't say anything about the Galaxy losing that game as an upset. It would just be an incredibly interesting conference final where either team could win. I mean, if you're a neutral, Robert, is that what you're hoping for? You're hoping for LA Derby out west, and maybe you're hoping Columbus, Miami. So it's chalk, right? You're hoping for chalk all the way through.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. There's no MLS team, within hours of me, so I am truly an MLS neutral, and I almost want to hit the fast forward button quite a few weeks and get to LA versus LA and Miami versus Columbus. In to be completely honest with you.
I mean, this is the thing about MLS, right? Like, this is the argument against the playoffs and the playoff format is that, hey, what if we end up with a 7 seed winning the whole thing? Will that feel right? Will that be weird? No, I
That's
don't
what
know
they're
why.
going for, right? In a way.
Oh, I don't know why we do this. We do it in soccer, but we don't do it in other sports. Nobody says when a wild card team makes a Super Bowl, oh, they don't deserve to be there. Nobody does that. What they say is, oh, they found a way to win the playoffs. Good for them. Like
Cinderella
that.
story.
Yeah, Cinderella story. That's the same thing. Like I I told you I took my kid to a college fair yesterday. That was at George Mason University here in Virginia. George
Congrats.
Mason made the Final Four in 2006 when they had no business making the Final Four. And nobody goes, well, oh, what a travesty that is that they got to the Final Four and almost had a chance to play for a title. No, they go, what a story. What an incredible thing that they did. That's great. We don't do that with MLS. We turn this into, well, if a lower seed does something, well, that's indicates a problem with the format and a problem with playoffs, and you're not rewarding the team. I mean, we don't have time to litigate Supporter Shield versus MLS Cup again, right? But Inter Miami is clearly the best team in the league, but they have to prove it in a knockout style tournament as well. It's like it's a different kind of challenge. Are you good at both things? Can you shoot and also rebound? Like we're just talking about two different skill sets on some level, which I think makes it interesting. I think from a neutral's perspective, Chalk sounds like the most exciting tournament because we know how good both LA teams are. We know how good Inter Miami is. We know how good Columbus, and you sort of want to see greatness up against greatness. Or you want to see the best against the best to figure out who the champion is going to be. But this being MLS, there's a not insignificant chance that somebody breaks up that party.
At least one, you'd think. MLS Cup playoffs, wildcard games on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then begins in earnest on Friday with Inter Miami taking on the winner of Montreal.
Think about that turnaround.
Atlanta United.
Think about that turnaround, Robert, for the wildcard team. You just won a game. Now, Atlanta has to go to Montreal. But you just won that game. You've gotten your ticket punched for the tournament proper, and now you got to go down to Fort Lauderdale and you got to play Lionel Messi and Inter Miami.
The record-breaking team, yeah.
2 or 3 days after you played your last game, like that's, I guess it's be Tuesday. So yeah, but that's got to be rough.
I mean, it's very similar to the NCAA tournament with the play-in game. To your point, it's like you're the 65th best team. Now you have to play the best seed the next day, right?
Yeah, that's right. You are at a disadvantage because you didn't have a better regular season. And I guess that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. And Miami deserves their advantage, 74 points in the MLS regular season.
Who you excited about and what games are you guys excited about watching? Hit us up, Kick Around on X and Instagram, or, comment below here on the YouTube video. Subscribe to Morning Kick Around on YouTube. We are expanding our coverage of the world's favorite game from everyone's favorite country. Be sure to get in on it and get a touch in here on our morning kick around. Comment from the crowd here. Brooks Lambier, thank you for tuning in again. He's reminding me my Western Michigan Broncos are the last undefeated team left in college soccer. Jason, BU Terriers on a 2-game winning streak. How about that?
Go Terriers. Can't pretend that I'm paying much attention to BU soccer, but yeah, go Terriers. Why not? Sure. We're a hockey school, Robert. That's the fact about BU. So, you know how it goes.
There's not a BU PU chant, is there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
What is that? I don't understand.
Like BU, like they stink. Oh, sorry, I'm throwing a little dad joke here at the end of the show.
That's terrible. That's so terrible. I think.
If you hated that joke, write us in at morningkickaround@gmail.com. But I guess that is Monday's show. Thank you for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, do all those things. And there'll be plenty more to talk about on Wednesday morning. For Jason and myself and Jenny on the buttons, thank you. And we'll see you on Monday or Wednesday for another episode of this thing we call Morning Kick Around.
Bye.